Hi, Grandpa. I'm calling from my new phone that I got for Christmas. It's an iPhone. I love you, and you're the first person I called. I love you. Bye.
Solid as a rock.
He's cared for the famine victims in Somalia. Bought back 3,000 guns to confront violence in D.C.
Something about what God is using him to do with us.
We will rock you.
I wanna rock right now.
Registered numerous people to vote. It's evident that he cares. What do you care about? Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. It's the Rock Newman Show.
Washington, D.C. Good morning, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and the whole wide world. Those of you listening on 1480 AM WEAC Radio, welcome to the Rock Newman Show. Those of you watching around the globe at www.rocknewmanshow.com, I welcome you to another spectacular Saturday morning here in the nation's capital on Martin Luther King Avenue, 1918 Martin Luther King Avenue to be exact. Today is Saturday, April the 27th, and we have 3 hours of programming that I think that you're going to find titillating, interesting, enjoyable, maybe controversial, hopefully informative, inspiring, and enlightening. I have a guest on the line, so I really want to go right to this. We're going to have a fairly fast-paced show this morning. I want to give out the telephone number, and if any of you out there in radio land or website land would like to call in here to join our conversation, the telephone number is 202-889-9797. Give it out one more time, 202-889-9797. I have a guest on the line. For many, many years, I have, whether it has been watching NBC or ABC or CBS or CNN, many network broadcasts, I've seen this gentleman speak, and I've always applauded his position. His name is Mark Potok. He is with the Southern Poverty Law Center. And Mark, before I come to you, just give me a moment because well, first of all, Mark Potok, welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
Well, a real pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Mark, I'm gonna read something from your website that's titled Hate and Extremism, and it says, currently there are 1,007 known hate groups operating across the country, including neo-Nazis, Klansmen, white nationalists, neo-Confederates, racist skinheads, black separatists, border vigilantes, and others. Since 2000, the number of hate groups has increased by 67%. This surge has been fueled by anger and fear over the nation's ailing economy, an influx of non-white immigrants, and the diminishing white majority, as symbolized by the election of the nation's first African-American president. These factors are feeding a powerful resurgence of anti-government patriot movement, which in the 1990s led to a string of domestic terrorist plots, including the Oklahoma City bombing. The number of patriot groups, including armed militia, has grown 813% since Obama was elected, from 149 in 2008 to 1,360 of these groups in 2012 since Obama was elected. This growth in extremism has been aided by mainstream media figures and politicians who have used their platforms to legitimize false propaganda about immigrants and other minorities and spread the kind of paranoid conspiracy theories on which militia groups thrive. In the early 1980s, the Southern Poverty Law Center co-founded and chief trial counsel Morris Dees pioneered the strategy of using the courts to battle organized violent hate groups. Since then, you guys have won numerous large damage awards on behalf of victims of hate group violence. These cases are funded entirely by your supporters. You say you accept no legal fees from the clients we represent. Among the groups shut down by crushing jury verdicts in the Southern Poverty Law Center cases are the White Aryan Resistance, the United Klans of America, the White Patriot Party Militia, and Aryan Nations. Mark, that is quite an impressive resume of accomplishments in fighting racism and extremism and hatred throughout this land. So to that end, for your many accomplishments, I really applaud you. If you would share with us, please, let's take, for example, the Boston bombings. The recently that happened there in Copley Square in Boston. Have you and your group that does the massive research that you do, have you guys gotten any information about any affiliations from those who are being alleged to be responsible for those bombings?
No, is the short answer. Not really. I mean, the honest truth is we're following it like everyone else, and, you know, information's coming out in dribs and drabs. To be honest, you know, one of our big concerns is that to the extent that these two brothers have been identified as quote-unquote Muslims, and they certainly have been, you know, I think we're seeing a kind of gathering storm in terms of anti-Muslim backlash. I think that's an obvious concern, and you can see it already kind of gathering force. There have been some fairly incredible things said by figures on the right in the last few days since those brothers were identified and really pegged, like I say, as Muslims. And, you know, very, very ugly talk, and it's not about them, it's about all Muslims. So, you know, I think really what's happening right now from our point of view is the whole Muslim community in the United States is kind of hunkered down, waiting for the trouble that is sure to come.
You know, I found it amazing, and there's been quite a bit of talk about it, that early in the process that CNN aired a piece where John King spoke of a dark-skinned suspect. They sort of used that term 2 or 3 different times. Now, you know, as you guys go about the work that you do, obviously, you know, for the most part, CNN is looked at as a respectable news organization. Do you guys ever challenge that sort of reporting?
We do. I mean, we haven't said anything particular about that, but you're right. I mean, the way it was characterized, and they also ran it on the crawl for about an hour, this business about looking for a quote-unquote dark-skinned suspect. And, you know, at the time, I mean, it was really wholly unnecessary. And but to answer the question more directly, you know, we have taken on networks, and it's not always Fox or that kind of thing. As a matter of fact, we fought a battle with CNN that probably lasted about 7 years over Lou Dobbs, who I'm sure our listeners will remember ran a show for years, every afternoon, every single weekday afternoon, in which virtually every day he ran a segment about the evils of immigrants. And it's not merely that Lou Dobbs was, you know, felt lower immigration levels would be good for the country. It's that he engaged in falsehoods, in lying about immigrants in a defamatory way. So I don't know if people will remember this, but in a way, our battle was really joined over Dobbs's claim that immigrants were responsible for what he characterized as a kind of epidemic of leprosy. It was 100% false, that story. There was no epidemic of leprosy whatsoever. To the small extent we have leprosy still in this country, it was A, first, incredibly easily treatable, and B, had been diminishing for many, many years, and C, had no known relationship to immigrants. But, you know, that was the kind of thing that was said. You know, we've done other things like that. I remember Bill O'Reilly on the O'Reilly Factor on Fox a few years ago ran an amazing piece in which he alleged he and this guy who was identified as a Fox criminal analyst, some guy sitting next to O'Reilly at the desk, they sat there and alleged that the country was being menaced by hundreds of gangs of lesbian women with pink pistols, I kid you not, who were molesting middle school girls with sex toys they bought on the Internet. This thing was concocted out of whole cloth. We did some reporting and found they'd used clips from news stories that had absolutely nothing to do with this. To make a long story short, they basically had to retract every word in the story. It was just an amazing falsification. And, in a way you think, well, who cares, right? I mean, it's a wild and wacky story. But, of course, the upshot of the story is to demonize lesbians in this case, just as Dobbs had, spent so many months and years demonizing Latino immigrants. And, people like that, I think, have to take some kind of moral responsibility, not legal responsibility, but moral responsibility, for the 19-year-old kids that go out there with baseball bats and attack Latino immigrants and lesbian women or whoever else is being defamed in the mainstream.
Mark, in doing a little research about you and the organization, I come across information about the incredible threats that you all receive on a more than regular basis. Can you give a little snapshot about sort of the environment in which you work and, those threats that you all have to deal with so often?
Yes, sure. I mean, I often joke with colleagues that it's not the right-wing nuts who live in armed compounds. It's us. And the fact is, I'm talking to you right now from a big 6-story building, which is a bit of an armed camp. We spend something like $1 million a year on security, and that's, I think, money that is not foolishly spent at all. It's a serious business. Back in 1983, when we were first getting into the business of suing Klan groups, in fact, the United Klans of America case you mentioned, 3 Klansmen broke into our offices, literally came up out of a sewer pipe behind our offices, which were then very small, in the middle of the night.
Hold on. I hear a connection here. Klan coming out of a sewer pipe.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's a funny moment in the sense.
I recognize that connection.
They firebombed our offices and basically destroyed our offices, and that was the beginning. Since then, about 30 men, mostly one woman in that group, have been sent to federal prison for trying to blow the building up there where I work, to assassinate people who work here, and so on. So, I guess in a way that says something about our work. It must be important if so many people are willing to go to prison or, attempt to murder us and that kind of thing. It is quite a scene down here in that sense.
Mark, part of the research also, and I would be, I would be less than fair or objective if I didn't say, looking at some of the research, early in, someone Googles your name, Southern Poverty Law Center, you see these groups out there that actually call the Southern Poverty Law Center a hate group and say that you and your organization spread propaganda which is unfounded. I see that Rush Limbaugh is really a great friend of yours. He calls you a kook and a whole bunch of other names. But the allegation that they make is that you take conservative organizations and you tie them to more extreme violent factors in the nation, and that's unfair. And so therefore you and your organization, you are espousing hate in your own right.
Yeah, that's one piece of the attacks. I mean, this is coming from the very far right. But there's more, right? I mean, that it's a racket. It's a fundraising racket is the allegation. There are really, 12 or 15 Nazis out there and, half a dozen Klansmen. And we kind of sit around writing story after story after story about them and scaring people with, that's essentially the allegation. I mean, what I would say is, first of all, on the business of is the threat from the radical right real, it seems that the answer is completely obvious. We've seen an enormous growth in the radical right in the last few years. And for those who think, we're running some kind of fundraising racket or something like that, I just point to the many other experts on terrorism and extremism in this country who are pointing to the very, very same thing. With the idea, what you're talking about with sort of attacking mainstream organizations is really a battle we've been fighting for the last 2 years with some of the extreme, or what I would characterize as extreme, religious right organizations. In particular, beginning about 2 years ago, we began listing two big groups, the Family Research Council and the American Family Association, as hate groups. These are groups that portray themselves as Christian groups. They represent kind of Christ on earth. They're supposed to be such good guys. But in fact, what these groups do is they engage in a constant, never-ending defamation of gay people. And what I'm not talking about, what these groups will say, and they're on TV, on Fox News and so on all the time, saying the Southern Poverty Law Center lists them as a hate group because they oppose same-sex marriage, because they believe that the Bible describes homosexuality as a sin. That, as these groups well know, is completely false. We do not list groups on the basis of those things. We're not going to argue about what Scripture says. We are not theologians. We list those groups on the basis of the fact that they consciously lie about gay people on a number of levels. Probably the most important one is that they describe gay men as being pedophiles at a rate vastly higher than straight men. For instance, the American Family Association has claimed that gay men are 50 times more likely to molest children than straight men, that they're responsible, they're about 3% of the population. Well, that's gay people, probably 1.5% of the population, but they're responsible for 30 or 40% of molestations. Well, that's simply false, and that's not our research. That's the research of real experts, the American Psychological Association, the American Psychiatric Association, and so on and so on. So that is our battle. Recently, late last year, a man who had worked at some kind of small gay rights center in Washington, D.C., went to the offices of the Family Research Council, which are in D.C., and shot a guard. And he wasn't really a guard. He was a business manager, but a man kind of standing out of the front door. Shot him, didn't kill him, shot him in the arm, was wrestled to the ground, arrested, and has since pled guilty in that attack. Well, this guy told the authorities when he was being questioned that he had looked up the Family Research Council on the Southern Poverty Law Center site, on our site where we list hate groups. So the allegation has been that we are responsible for the shooting, right? The FRC president, Tony Perkins, has gone, repeatedly over the last 4 or 5 months, been accusing the Southern Poverty Law Center of responsibility for the shooting of his man. I just think that's absolutely bogus. It's a terrible thing. The guy was shot without question, and we said so at the time. But the idea that we are responsible for this man's shooting because we told the truth about the Family Research Council, I think is really bogus.
Right.
They went on TV to say things like, we printed the address of the Family Research Council. That was, complete falsehood. And in any case, that's what the battle has been. Those on the far right are really piling on at the moment. We're a bunch of murderers and so on, because essentially, in my view, we're telling the truth.
Right, Mark. In the second hour, and actually in the second 2 hours today, I have a gentleman that is coming on that has been quite a lightning rod in this country. He's been a very controversial figure, Minister Louis Farrakhan, obviously, who heads up the Nation of Islam. I was absolutely, I was surprised. I didn't imagine when I was doing the research to get prepared to interview Minister Farrakhan or to interview you about your work at the Southern Poverty Law Center, that they would be that the Nation of Islam would be listed as one of the hate groups. My observation and familiarity, to the extent that I am, with the Nation of Islam is, you kind of see guys in the street out doing their thing. You see municipalities, cities, mayors, calling on the nation to try to help protect citizens in their various municipalities, and I just didn't even have the imagination that they might have been a group that was listed as a hate group. Can you please explain why they would be specifically they? Because as I said, Mr. Farrakhan is coming on. I'm sure he will address the issue, but I'd like to get your a take on why they have been listed as a hate group.
Sure. Let me say a few things about it. First of all, when we began listing them, which if I remember was about 1998, I wrote an editorial in which I said something to the effect of, look, we understand that the racism of the Nation of Islam and black racism in general, to the extent that it exists in this country, is largely, if not entirely, a reaction to white racism, a very long history of white racism. At the same time, and here I quoted Martin Luther King, at some point you've kind of got to break the chain. You can't simply, I hate you, you hate me. It goes back and forth. We proceed, through the centuries in this way. I mean, brings us to a place like we see in Yugoslavia, or the former Yugoslavia, where there's just unending hatreds back and forth. The other thing I want to say by way of background is that our listings are based entirely on the ideology of the groups, right? It has nothing to do with criminality or violence or some kind of estimate we're making for the potential for violence. As a matter of fact, we have a very short sentence on our website defining hate groups. All hate groups have beliefs or practices that attack or malign an entire class of people, typically for their immutable characteristics, for instance, skin color. So, what is the problem with the Nation? Well, I mean, the Nation really is black supremacist, and Martin Luther King, way back in 1959, described them as a hate group arising in our midst that would preach the doctrine of black supremacy. And let me explain what that is, and let me also say, I understand that the Nation has done many good things in the black community in America. So, I don't discount that. But here's the bottom line. The core of the ideology of the Nation, at least as affects this question, is that, once upon a time on the earth, it was essentially a kind of Garden of Eden. The world was run by giant, extremely smart black men, scientists, sometimes said to be about 14 foot tall. 6,600 years ago, the Nation Doctrine says, a renegade black scientist, a man by the name of Yaqub, or sometimes called Mr. Yaqub, decided that he was going to rebel, and his plan was to create another evil race by grafting genes together, brown genes and black genes, and it was a complicated process that went on for 600 years where Yaqub killed the black babies and kept the brown babies alive and did this strange grafting process, and what he produced at the end was white people. A race of, as they say, blue-eyed devils, intrinsically evil people. The white people were described as, a snake of the grafted type, a skunk of the planet Earth. So from that point forward, and the doctrine goes on to say that what Yaqub was really doing was extracting what little evil there was in the original people, meaning black people, and concentrating it into a purely evil race, white people who had no vestige of any kind of goodness of God and so on. So that's essentially it. From that point on, white people are supposed to rule the earth for 6,000 years. Then they will ultimately be thrown over and destroyed by the original people, meaning black people. And there are many other aspects, well, really two big other aspects that kind of add to the hate designation of the Nation. One, as is, I think, very well known, the Nation, and in particular, Minister Farrakhan and his former deputy, Khalid Muhammad, and a number of others, have really attacked Jews in, I think, a plainly anti-Semitic way. One of the more infamous things the Nation has done is publish this book, The Secret Relationship of Blacks and Jews, which is a counterfactual book posing as scholarship which alleges, completely falsely, that Jews ran the transatlantic slave trade. That simply isn't true. I mean, there were certainly a few Jews involved, but a tiny percentage. And essentially, the slave trade was run by Protestants and Catholics. So that goes on from there. Judaism is a gutter religion, all the rest of it. Hitler was a great man, that kind of thing. And the last piece is it's also a very, very anti-gay organization. So those are the reasons, shortly told, why we list the group. And had the nation kind of left this ideology behind, we would certainly unlist them, but they haven't. They really haven't.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. It's been it's been a long time since I've been in a synagogue, since I've been in a church, or
Sure.
since I have been in a mosque. So I certainly can't speak for what today's teachings are. I did want to. I really have the question. Boy, we're running out of time, but I have the question of whether or not it's your understanding that those teachings that you just described, whether or not they could still continue to this day. And I ask that question because it almost seems irreconcilable that those would be today's teachings with the actions and the behavior and the upliftment that we see, actually in the streets. So, are you familiar with whether or not that is sort of continues to this day?
I think I can answer that question. I mean, it appeared in the mid to the late 90s that Minister Farrakhan, and he said so, was moving the nation back to a more mainstream Islam. He made several statements to that effect. He held what were supposed to be conciliatory meetings with Jewish organizations like the Anti-Defamation League, but it all fell apart very quickly. And the minister, in fact, went back to, Jews controlled the media, controlled Hollywood, were, evil people, and so on. And in fact, the minister kind of re-endorsed everything that Elijah Muhammad, his predecessor as leader of the nation, had formulated as ideology, the very things we're talking about Mr. Yaqub and so on. So what I think is true is that many of the people who are involved in the nation, who are followers, who are members, actually don't understand this very well, these kind of core ideas. I do think that that's true, that many people who are followers. But, this is the same way.
Hey, Mark, let me stop you there, because that, I think, is tiptoeing up to the line of being patronizing or paternalistic when you say that the followers of a group that is.
Well, I talk to a lot of the followers who say that's not true. I don't say that simply as an assumption. And after we began listing them, we had a delegation of a few officials of the nation who came from Atlanta to talk to us about the listing. And what we basically said to them was, look, we are absolutely happy and we'd be delighted to unlist the nation, but it has got to leave behind this ideology about whites as intrinsically, chemically evil beings. And they simply wouldn't do it. So, I think it's very much a part of the ideology still. Yeah. I don't think we're trying to be patronizing at all, but, I think it's perfectly obvious that if you reverse the colors, if this was some white group that said that black people were created in a test tube and are chemically, intrinsically evil, it doesn't matter what you think or do or are in life. It's simply that you're evil because of the color of your skin. No, I don't think anybody would hesitate for a second to say, well, obviously that's a hate group.
Well, Mark, we have unfortunately run out of time. From this microphone, have stated when I did my first show, that part of what I wanted to do was to be aware of what folks cared about, and that I wanted this microphone and my voice to be a voice that would contribute to sort of a coming together of people. I'm certain that, again, in fairness, that I have to, in my interview with the minister, I will certainly address some of the issues that you have laid out here. I'm sure that he will be more than happy to respond to them. And I would just say, you just said there that, you as an organization that monitors, hate groups would be happy to unlist them. I have no idea whether or not the nation, the minister, would be interested in that kind of dialogue. But it seems to me, and what I'm going to try to promote and contribute, again, from this microphone, is a very candid, a very transparent, a very hopefully refreshing and truthful kind of dialogue between those individuals and organizations that might so terribly disagree. in seeing whether or not we can engender some healing amongst all of our people. It would be a cliche to say we live in a crazy world, a world where so many darts are thrown and names are called and labels are given. And man, if we could just, reduce that. I don't want to oversimplify anything, but certainly the effort from here, from this microphone, will be to accomplish a more peaceful, tranquil world where, everybody can do like Rodney King said a long time ago, just get along. Thank you so much for being on the Rock Newman Show.
I appreciate the chance to be here.
Folks, that is our first segment. We have on the line, coming up after these breaks, the CEO of Floyd Mayweather Promotions. His name is Leonard Ellaby. He's a Washington, D.C. resident, went to Spingarn High School, and as I posted on Facebook the other day, he's Floyd Mayweather's main man. Floyd Mayweather has another gazillion-dollar fight coming up next weekend and is making news all across the sports pages. We'll examine all about Floyd Mayweather and with Leonard Ellaby when we return from these messages.
What do you care about? We'll find out when the discussion continues after this on The Rock Newman Show.
My baby drives a handcuff.
The weekend is here, and no matter what the weather's like outside, you'll find the deals inside here in the beautiful showroom of the all-new Pohanka Hyundai in Capitol Heights during their giant Markdown Madness sale.
Smart shoppers know that every new Hyundai in Pohanka comes with Hyundai Assurance and America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. But why don't you tell them about the Markdown sale, Joe?
I'll be happy to, Kim. Folks, shop around on the web, and you'll see lease payments on a new 2013 Elantra GLS at $179 a month. Today at Pohanka Hyundai, $99 a month. That's right, a $99 payment on a brand new Elantra.
And $89 a month on a new 2013 Accent GLS Automatic. How do they do it, Joe?
It must be the volume, Kim. A brand new building, hundreds of new Hyundais, and Pohanka's low payment and easy credit programs are designed to get everybody driving. But you have to get here today. Rush to the giant Markdown Madness sale at exit 13 off the Capitol Beltway.
Pohanka Hyundai, king of the Beltway. All financing for a limited term on approved HMF credit.
My baby drives a handcuff.
Good God! I got to ask you, what we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. What we need? Soul Food. Henry Soul Food.
Giving you the real on everything from politics, sports, and common everyday life issues. This is The Rock Newman Show.
I'm Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico. Last year, my state became the 12th state to allow medical use of marijuana by patients who are seriously ill. Some people were surprised that a Republican governor supports medical marijuana, but I'm hardly alone. Groups like the American College of Physicians, American Nurses Association, and American Public Health Association have all acknowledged the medical value of marijuana. New research about medical marijuana is coming out almost every day, showing remarkable potential in all sorts of serious conditions, including cancer, AIDS, and chronic pain. But some in government still want to put politics and ideology ahead of public health. To learn more about medical marijuana and what you can do to help, contact the Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or visit them on the web at mpp.org. Thanks.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at WEAC Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, the Ark. The Ark is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The Ark is also home to the Ark Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you could want is at the Ark, so stop by and see them. The Ark, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast. For more information, visit the Ark's website, www.thearkdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The Ark, part of Southeast D.C.
Real talk, real issues, real life.
I got a new sheriff in town.
We now return to the Rock Newman Show.
Folks, welcome back to the Rock Newman Show. Today's Saturday. We got that intro music coming. What are we saying? Welcome back to the Rock Newman Show. Today's Saturday, April the 27th. I have online with me Washington, D.C. native Leonard Ellaby, a gentleman who, as I posted on Facebook the other day, is Floyd Mayweather's main man. This gentleman here really oversees, helps to manage, orchestrates an empire that has generated now hundreds of millions of dollars. And he's right here from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Folks, I want to give you this number again. I know the phones have been jammed, but try again. We have a line open at 202-889-9797. Leonard Ellaby, welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
Thank you, Rock. How you doing this morning?
Leonard, I am great, and you are gracious for getting up. I know you're there in Las Vegas as Floyd Mayweather winds down his preparations for his big fight next Saturday night. Tell us a little bit about how Floyd is doing, where he's at in his training, and is he ready to go?
Yeah, he's ready to go. Actually, we just left the gym about 2 hours ago. So he went home and he's resting right about now. He's in unbelievable shape. It's been a great camp, and he's really excited and ready to go next week.
You know, there's something very unorthodox about Floyd. Is you said he just left the gym about 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago in Las Vegas would have been, what is that? 2 hours ago in Las Vegas, 6:30 would have been about 4:30 in the morning. What is it about Floyd Mayweather that has him training at what some folks would say is time to be sleeping, and then Floyd's out getting it in, working hard?
Well, Rock, I think it's a psychological advantage. You know, while he's working, his opponents are sleeping. And I think he's used that as motivation, you know, throughout his career to, you know, continue to go to that next level.
Leonard, how did you guys, let's go back. Tell us about your journey into the world of to the crazy topsy-turvy world of boxing. How did you get started? What motivated you, and how did you end up working with Floyd Mayweather?
Well, obviously growing up in Washington, D.C., I don't know what young man wasn't a boxing fan growing up, obviously with the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, coming out of that area. So as a kid, I started out as an amateur, working with Mr. McCann up at Hillside in Hillcrest Heights. And it started from there. You know, I've always had an interest, you know, as a kid, and then I went on to go into the military, and I boxed in the military, and I met Roger Mayweather at that point, and that was some 30-some years ago. And from there, me and Roger became friends, and he was working with me, meaning training me, for a short period of time. And he introduced me to his nephew at that time, who was about 13, 13, 14 maybe, when he had came to Las Vegas, just passing through visiting.
And the nephew you're talking, and the nephew you're talking about is Floyd, Money Mayweather.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And so after he introduced me, to him, and then when he went on obviously to make the Olympic team. Shortly after he made the Olympic team and he was getting ready to turn pro, he moved to Las Vegas. And at that time, I was in Las Vegas, living in Las Vegas, and it just kind of evolved from there. We had, kind of gotten a chance to, get to know each other a little bit. And, I think one thing that kind of stood out about me, having coming from the background that I came from, he's really big on trust, and I think that initially when we met, that came to the forefront, and here we are today.
Leonard, you guys have really had quite a journey. I remember, sort of the really hostile times when at one point Floyd was fighting under the top rank banner, and Floyd wanted independence, and there was just such such hostility expressed in the media between Bob Arum and Floyd, and Floyd had early on a turbulent time with HBO, and he survived all of that. He survived all of that. No matter what was going on outside of the ring, he was able to dedicate himself to his profession and become what, in my estimation, is unquestionably pound for pound the greatest fighter today. I've often said when I described Floyd Mayweather that he has the highest boxing IQ of any fighter that I have ever seen. Now, he's got a lot of DNA, His dad, Roger, everybody. I remember seeing him in the gym when he was 6 years old, and he was hitting the speed bad like a grown man. I remember seeing his Roger train people and Floyd kind of be in the ring, and as Roger was teaching folks to feint and to move his head and to roll and all of that, I saw Floyd at a very young age doing those things. So when I look at him now and say that he has the highest boxing IQ of any fighter I've ever seen, people ask me the question, well, what do you mean? I say, well, what I mean is he knows how to hit and not to be hit. And in its purest form, La Dose science, the sweet science, is all about being able to hit and not be hit. So, what I want to ask you, that I certainly want to give that as my observation of Floyd. Let's go into something that there was so much talk about for so many years. Let's fast forward. Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao didn't happen. It probably never will happen. It unquestionably would have been the biggest fight in the history of boxing. From the Mayweather camp, with you, really truly a central point of the camp, tell us in your estimation why you think that fight wasn't made 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years ago.
What? 2 words. His promoter. His promoter never wanted to make the fight, and it all started, as you mentioned, Rock, with Floyd having a former relationship with him, being promoted by him for several years, and it was a nasty split. And the reason why, in Arum's eyes, it was a nasty split, it was because Floyd wanted his independence. He had been with Top Rank for about 10 years, and we were coming to the end, and he wanted to become his own boss. Early on in his career, Bob wanted to promote him like he promoted Oscar De La Hoya, and
so the Golden Boy. The
Golden Boy. And in Floyd's eyes, he was not Hispanic, and he wanted to be the first Floyd Mayweather. He didn't want to be the next Oscar De La Hoya. And we both consistently expressed that to Bob, and, you know, we didn't see eye to eye on that. And as we came to the end of our contract, Floyd had made it crystal clear that he wanted to become his own boss. He wanted to form his own company and be an entrepreneur. You know, he had a vision where that he wanted to do things his way. And he had the foresight and the vision to, you know, understand that if he did things his own way, that it would be something magical in the making. And here we are.
Leonard, you say here we are. Just for our viewing and listening audience here at 1480 AM radio, and those that are watching around the world on www.rocknewmanshow.com. And those of you who want to call, I'll give you that number one more time, 202-889-9797. If you can give us, you know, man, I don't want to, I didn't like it when people tried to do it to me, but it's such a fascinating part of the Mayweather story because his nickname is aptly applied, Money Mayweather. Can you give us a ballpark figure of how much money Floyd has generated in his fights, just overall, and then at the end of the day, what kind of money the Mayweather side, the Mayweather part of the equation, has made in his career now?
Well, he's generated well over $500 million, right around about $540 million. It's been an unbelievable journey. You know, he's been in 9 pay-per-view fights, and he's averaging 1 million homes each time he goes out. And it from a creativity standpoint, you know, he thinks like a businessman, and he's also happens to be the best fighter in the world. So what we've been able to do is take a business model that we put together and just made it work for us. What we've done is we've cut out the middleman. You know, we formed our own company, Mayweather Promotions, in 2007, and when he became his boss, we decided that we were going to run everything through us, and meaning us, Mayweather Promotions. And essentially, when we did that, we formed a relationship with Golden Boy, and which has been a wonderful relationship. And we've, like in 2007, the whole goal was to fight Oscar De La Hoya, to put ourselves in a situation where we would have a platform to be able to get everyone in the world to see Floyd's talents. You know, he was always a great fighter, but if you don't have a platform that the whole world will be able to see you, then, you know, from a business standpoint, you won't be able to ever cross over into that mainstream world.
Folks, my guest online is Leonard Ellaby, Chief Operating Officer of Mayweather Promotions, Floyd Mayweather's main man. Tell us about the De La Hoya fight, Leonard. Tell us about that fight. I'm doing this interview with a sense that what I want folks who know absolutely nothing about boxing to realize as to how it happens. Now, amount of money that was generated for that fight. Let's start with the top number first. What do you think that top number was?
For that, the fight generated for the De La Hoya fight?
De La Hoya and Mayweather.
It was well over $150 million.
Okay, over $150 million, which, you know, to the layman would seem an absolute impossibility. So let's take it. How many pay-per-view homes were there? Do you remember?
Yes, of course. 2.45 million homes.
So let's round it off, call it 2.5. So 2.5 million homes, which paid how much per home for the fight?
If that particular time, it was $54.95.
If we round that down to 50, you see how that money starts to add up right away, and then you have the live gate, you have international sales, you have sponsorships, and all the other things that you guys have been able to, in a very business-like, very crafty way, been able to garner for yourselves. You know, you see the image of Floyd Mayweather sort of making it rain. And there are several, there are many people, in the community that look at Floyd from around, really literally from around the world, and say, man, this guy's made so much money, but he seems to be making it rain all the time and throwing it all away. Tell us, Leonard, what you guys are doing to make certain that Floyd doesn't go the way of so many past champions where they have a great career, they make so much money, and they end up on Skid Row.
Well, Rock, a lot of times what happens is that there's a perception out there, within the general public that just isn't true. The Money Mayweather character is just a persona. You have Money Mayweather, and then you have Floyd Mayweather. Money Mayweather is a guy that goes out there, and he likes to draw a lot of attention. Just like you said, early on in his career, he was Pretty Boy Floyd, and he grew out of that name. The Money Mayweather character. It's no different from when you watch a movie. You have a good guy and a bad guy. Early on, what he was able to understand is that he embraced the role, the villain role, and that's how the Money Mayweather character was formed. And essentially, when he embraced that role, he took it to a whole nother level. So he goes out there and he creates a lot of noise and creates a lot of attention. And then in turn, his team has put a business model in place where is that love him or hate him, as long as you're a paying customer, he's going to win.
Leonard, I personally know that you have been very instrumental in helping to guide the career and frankly, the life of Floyd Mayweather. And I want to compliment you. I want to applaud you for hanging in there, for staying with him by his side through thick and thin. In the last couple of minutes that we have, would you please share with your family here in Washington, D.C., and yours and Floyd's fans all around the world, tell us your job description. Now, I know that would take 2 days, but try to wrap that up for us in 2 minutes.
Oh, Rock. Oh. Every form of his business I handle, from legal to taxes to personal appearances. Every form of his business I'm responsible for. I have a partner, Al Heyman, who I work very closely with on the financial side. But every form of Floyd's business I'm responsible for. I run his company. I've been with him for now, it'll be 17 years. He's the highest paid athlete in all of sports, and I've been just truly blessed that God has put me in this wonderful position. My mother and father have just recently passed over the last 4 years. I know they're looking down on me, and they're very proud of, everything that I've accomplished. I'm a humble young man, and I truly understand that all my blessings and where they come from. It's been a long, hard road. I put in, on an average, 16 to 18 hours, 7 days a week. And it's been that way for the last 15, 16 years. It's a lot of sacrifice that I've made, but, this is what it's all about. God has blessed me and you put me in like I said, I can't say enough, a wonderful position to be able to take care of my family, to essentially never have to go out there and work again. It's just been an unbelievable journey, and I can't say enough that I'm just truly blessed.
Well, Leonard, I'll tell you, man, I really appreciate you getting up early this morning. I, along with my audience, are blessed to be able to have you on to get an insight into the highest paid athlete in the world and the phenomenon called Floyd Mayweather. Good luck next week. What's your prediction, real quick, for next week's fight?
Tune in. Tune in. Next Saturday is going to be an unbelievable fight.
Spoken just like a man that's trying to get him paid even more. Thank you so much, Leonard, for joining us.
Thank you, Rock, for having me on.
God bless you. Folks, in the next hour, Minister Louis Farrakhan from the Nation of Islam. It's 2 hours you do not want to miss here at WEAC Radio, 1480 AM, and at Rock Newman Show. All around the world, you can see and hear this. And those of you tuned in who've got friends that are out there, I suggest that you educate them and inform them that we've got 2 great hours of radio coming up with Minister Louis Farrakhan.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die.
The Rock Newman Show will be back after this.
Pohanka Acura's huge March sales event is going on now. Get one of the new 2013 TLs for as low as $199 per month, or get the brand new 2013 MDX for only $254 a month. Come find out why price and selection have made Pohanka the world's largest.
Take Action News with David Schuster, Saturdays from 12 to 3 on We Act Radio, 1480 AM and weactradio.com.
Well, for me, it's always been, you report the facts. You report like hell, let the chips fall where they may. And the truth ultimately is what's going to sort of help our society and help all of us. I don't think progressives want a thumb on the scale on the facts. They just want the facts out there. You let the facts out, and progressives will tell you, we're going to win 70% of the time. You may quibble with the percentages or whatnot, but I think that's just sort of what progressives are looking for, and I think that's where this all sort of meshes with my interest as a journalist. And my interest as a journalist is report the facts. Here's what's going on. Here's what the facts say. Here's what history says. Here are the lessons we know we have learned. And let people draw their own conclusions. And I think what's so unfortunate right now in the world of broadcast media is I do think that a lot of conservative radio, certainly conservative television, they're not interested in facts. And that's ultimately where I think conservative media is going to have its downfalls, that Americans are hungry. They're just hungry for basic information, hungry for basic facts. You report like hell. You let the chips fall where they may. I think it's natural for all of us who care, who are passionate about politics, who feel like we have a sense about the difference between right and wrong. I think it's okay to let that be part of your coverage. It's important for all of us as broadcasters and journalists. In this day and age, we have to be authentic. You can't be the person who's up in the ivory tower that comes down and tells people it's being aware sometimes of our own bias, but also being open to the idea that sometimes we're wrong. But we have a dialogue, and we have a passionate dialogue, and we care about this country, we care about this community, and I think that sort of passion is what carries us through.
Hear more from David Schuster, Saturdays from 12 to 3 on Take Action News on We Act Radio, 1480 AM and weactradio.com.
The prodigal son of the DMV is back. Ladies and gentlemen, show your love for Rock Newman on The Rock Newman Show.
June 27th is National HIV Testing Day.
HIV testing is fast, painless, and often free.
I've been tested for HIV.
I've been tested for HIV. Have you? To find an HIV testing center near you, visit greaterthan.org.
We Act Radio is a very proud partner of the Start at Westminster, a harm reduction, prevention, and awareness initiative sponsored by the Westminster Presbyterian Church right here in D.C. START stands for Syringe, Treatment, Advocacy, Resources, Training. These are the core elements of the harm reduction philosophy at START. The goal of this program is to reduce transmissions of HIV, hepatitis, and other bloodborne infectious diseases by empowering those at risk of infection with the tools, resources, and referrals they need to take charge of their health. Over the past year, the Start at Westminster tested over 1,600 people, and they're averaging about 150 tests each month. And of course, with the proper funding, that number could go even higher. For more information on this terrific program, go to www.startatwestminster.org or visit the Westminster Presbyterian Church, 400 I Street Southwest, right here in Washington, D.C.
The conversation that some people just don't care to have. We now rejoin the discussion on The Rock Newman Show.
Don't punish me with brutality. Come on, talk to me. You can see what's going on. Yeah, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. I'll tell you what's going on.
Could there be a more appropriate song as we enter into this hour? I'm Rock Newman. This is the Rock Newman Show. You're listening to 1480 WPWC We Act Radio. Today, Saturday, April the 27th, it is another spectacular Saturday morning here in Washington, D.C. on Martin Luther King Avenue. I want to give out the number once again. You know what? We're not taking any calls in the first hour, so y'all just going to have to hold on. But I'll give you the number, but hold it up for the second hour. The telephone number is 202-889-9797. Let me say to you, ladies and gentlemen in the studio, those listening on 1480 AM, viewers watching the program around the world at www.rocknewmanshow.com. I want to make a statement before I introduce my next guest. I'm going to start with an eulogy that was delivered by Ossie Davis at the funeral of Malcolm X on February the 27th, 1965, at the Faith Temple Church of God. Here, at this final hour, in this quiet place, Harlem has come to bid farewell to one of its brightest hopes, extinguished now and gone from us forever. For Harlem is where he worked and where he struggled and fought, his home of homes, where his heart was and where his people are. And it is therefore most fitting that we meet once again in Harlem to share these last moments with him. For Harlem has ever been gracious to those who have loved her, have fought for her, have defended her honor, even to the death. It is not in the memory of man that this beleaguered, unfortunate, but nonetheless proud community has found a braver, more gallant young champion than this Afro-American who lies before us, uncompromised still. I say the word again as he would want me to. Afro-American, Afro-American. Malcolm was a master, was most meticulous in his use of words. Nobody knew better than he the power words have over the minds of men and women. Malcolm had stopped being a Negro years ago. It had become too small. It had become too puny, too weak a word for him. Malcolm was bigger than that. Malcolm had become an Afro-American, and he wanted so desperately that all his people would become Afro-Americans too. There are those who will consider it their duty as friends of the Negro people to tell us to revile him, to flee, even from the presence of his memory, to save ourselves by writing him out of the history of our turbulent times. Many will ask what Harlem finds to honor in this stormy, controversial, bold young captain, and we will smile. Many will say, turn away from this man, for he is not a man but a demon, a monster, a subverter, and an enemy of the black man, and we will smile. They will say that he is of hate, a fanatic, a racist who can only bring evil to the cause for which you struggle. And we will answer and say unto them, did you ever talk to Brother Malcolm? Did you ever touch him or have him smile at you? Did you ever really listen to him? Did he ever do a mean thing? Was he ever himself associated with violence or any public disturbance? For if you did, you would know him. And if you knew him, you would know why we must honor him. Malcolm was our manhood, our living black manhood. However we may have differed with him or with each other about him and his value as a man, let his going from us now serve only to bring us together now. Consigning these mortal remains to earth, the common mother of all, secure in the knowledge that what we place in the ground is no more now a man, but a seed, which after the winter of our discontent will come forth again to meet us. And we will know him then for what he was and is, a prince, our own black shining prince, who didn't hesitate to die because he loved us so. The end of the eulogy. Minister Louis Farrakhan is someone I personally have watched closely since my days as a student and later as a counselor at Howard University in the 1970s. I have seen him inspire reverence, love, respect, admiration, and adulation. I've seen his words provoke expressions of anger, denunciation, scorn, venomous hostility, hatred, and rebuke. I want to ask the question, how is it? What is it about him that could prompt over 1 million black men to converge on the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., in singularly the largest crowd of people ever assembled at a rally in the history of the United States? What is it about him that caused the U.S. government to intentionally lie and say that there were only 400,000 participants on the mall that October the 16th, 2005 day? What is it about him that still makes many view him as a hateful, anti-white, anti-Semitic bigot? Is it something about him that makes us love him so? Is it something about him that makes us hate him? Is it something about, or do we see and love the best of ourselves in him? Or do we see things in him that we hate most about ourselves and hate him for it? He is now nearly 80 years old. May the 11th, 2013, Minister Farrakhan will celebrate his 80th birthday, God willing. Why has the mainstream media attempted to ignore him while salivating at the utterings of less astute, sometimes buffoonish black leaders? Why is he still the most vilified black man in America? Why does he remain as a litmus test for those running for political office? Barack Hussein Obama, could not have become president of the United States of America if he had not denounced Farrakhan. What's going on here? Has he murdered? Has he rioted? Has he robbed or raped or sexually abused? Has he stolen from the elderly? Has he started wars and plundered billions from the U.S. economy? Has he advocated or practiced violence against the U.S. government or any of its citizens? Or is his pulsating message to black America to clean itself up and to become a self-reliant, self-sufficient community a more feared message and crime than any of the aforementioned transgressions? I have said to some that Minister Louis Farrakhan believes in a very radical concept. That's my observation. He has waged war against evil and oppressive forces to advance that truly radical concept. He's been loved and hated for the weapons, words, and deeds used in his effort to bring about that radical, militant concept called equality. Frederick Douglass was indeed right when he said, "Power concedes nothing without a struggle, never has and never will." As a sports fan and a bit of a history fan, I'd like to remind black and white alike, at one time most of you hated, rebuked, and denounced Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali. You hated Paul Robeson, Emmett Till, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X. Now I ask one and all to reflect and ask yourself why you hated those individuals. And I would suggest you probably don't have a reasonable answer. I would submit that true introspection would perhaps cause you to feel humiliated and embarrassed for allowing your lower self, your fear, your bias, your bigotry, and prejudice to rule your best self. We must be better. Do I think Louis Farrakhan is a sinless, perfect man? Of course not. Do I think that he might have chosen some words and phrases at times that were inflammatory? Sure. Might I disagree with him on some social policies? Certainly, I may, as well as we all have a right to do. None of the foregoing, however, explains the ruthless, deceitful attempts to demonize him by those who have been offended by the harsh truth he often speaks. I have heard him speak eloquently, passionately, for 3 hours, criticizing and urging and encouraging his mostly black audience to do for self, to stop drinking, drugging, to establish a better work ethic, get better educated, treat women better, respect the elderly, teach their children discipline, and to love and respect the divine force of our choice. Doing such 3-hour discourse, mostly spent taking black Americans to task while attempting to inspire their rise, he may have taken 10 or 15 minutes pointing out the sins, failures, and foibles of government, white America, or some of those in the Jewish community. The following day's headlines would read, "Farrakhan hates whites and Jews." His message of self-love and self-help and honor and respect for all who would be totally ignored. I ask you why. If a man is judged by his deeds, can we deny that he and the organization he leads, the Nation of Islam, have been shining examples of cleaning up tens of thousands through the years? Please listen. They have helped lift junkies and prostitutes and pimps and drug dealers and violent thugs from our streets. They have helped our communities become a safer place to live, not by using guns or deadly force weaponry, but by an upright example of moral authority. I read Ossie Davis's searing Malcolm X eulogy as a reminder of our propensity for hardened judgment for those still amongst us and our more compassionate, reasonable consideration when they're gone. Let us follow that little boy who was recently murdered in Boston. Let us follow him and his silent, eloquent plea held up on a chalkboard. It said, "Stop hurting people, peace. Stop hurting people, peace." The core belief coming from this voice you now hear is rooted in a firm belief that we are one, from many tribes and destinations, but still we are one. I am a Pisces, and it's been said we're prone to daydream, to fantasize, and on that count, I'm guilty as charged. Yes, I fantasize of the day when black and white, gay and straight, man and woman, Muslim and Jew, rich and poor, conservative and progressive, can look each other in the eye and see the divine humanity of our higher selves. In spite of our many differences of color, ethnicity, education, religion, country, or gender, we are one. I plan to spend the rest of my days doing what I can to speak a healing truth that might bring us a little closer to each other, so that we might better know, understand, and appreciate each other, and to find the mutual love and respect that illuminates the reality that indeed says we are one. So I ask one and all to listen to today with an open mind and, more importantly, with an open heart. Let us all work to heal the wounds of our vastly fractured world. Minister Louis Farrakhan, welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
What a marvelous way to open our dialogue today. I don't think we could have had a better opening to set the proper stage for proper and righteous dialogue. I am grateful to Almighty God for our brother Rock Newman, for his show, for his marvelous character, for this building in which we are engaged in dialogue, and the community in which this building has this radio station. I pray that the words that come from our lips and the meditation of our hearts will be acceptable not only to our listeners and watchers, but acceptable to God Himself, who is the author of all truth and the source of all goodness. Thank you so much for the honor, the privilege, and the pleasure to be your guest this morning.
Thank you so much. Do you have a pitchfork? Where is your pitchfork?
Well, I'll tell you. I don't have a pitchfork, but I do have a sword. And if you look at the shape of a tongue, it's like a sword. And when that tongue is filled with truth, then, and that truth is allowed to enter the hearts and minds of those who are deprived of truth, then that sword of truth will be the instrument that God will use to set His people free. So Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." But the scripture also says, how can they know except they have a teacher? And how can they have a teacher except he be sent? Sent by whom? So if the enemy who enslaved us has sent us our teachers, no wonder we're still singing, "We shall overcome." But when God sends you a teacher with that truth that will set you free, then we will be able to say like Dr. King, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, somebody has told the truth, and now we're free at last."
Free at last. Minister, what I do here, let me share. Again, I approach this microphone and my radio show most times in a way that I would like to have our listeners learn about, understand, and see for themselves and make their interpretations about who my guests are, what they have to say, what their beliefs are, what their deeds and actions have deemed them to be. And in order to do that, I typically, and I would like to do it this morning with you, And that sort of go all the way back. And I'm going to, I will even attempt to take you back before you were born. Because if I heard the story correctly, even your birth, being born, was controversial. And so if we could go all the way back, I typically ask my guests, tell me your first recollection as a child. But because I've heard the story of the controversy of your birth, I'd like to start there.
Wow. Okay. Well, all of us have stories that we can tell of things that surrounded our coming to life in this world. My father was a handsome man from Jamaica in the British West Indies, and my mother was an exceedingly strong and beautiful black woman from the island of St. Kitts. They met, they married. His name was Percival Clark, and he was, as a handsome man, a philanderer. And my mom, at one point, threw him out of the house. And evidently she still loved him because she kept his name as her married name until she became a Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But during the time that my mother got rid of my father, another beautiful black man came into her life. His name was Louis Walcott. He was from the beautiful island of Barbados. And while they were not married and sharing life and time together, as many of you in the audience may not be married, but sharing your life with a partner. But one time, my father slipped back into the picture. Sometimes those things happen.
Those things happen sometimes.
And unfortunately or fortunately, my mother became pregnant. My older brother was already in the world, Alvin Walcott, who is a great jazz pianist. He's passed away. And so now my mom is pregnant, and she's with Mr. Walcott, and Mr. Clark, my dad, is hitting and running. So my mother, very frightened and excited because her pregnancy could ruin the relationship with Mr. Walcott. So she had hoped, well, first she decided, I've got to get rid of this. And many of you in this audience who may be pregnant, and there are circumstances surrounding your pregnancy that frighten you, and you think, well, maybe I'll visit the abortion clinic. Today you have abortion clinics. In those days, they had hangers, wire hangers that they used.
Butcher houses, more appropriately described, probably.
But my mother was the butcher house. Wow. And she used a hanger and tried once to abort my life, tried twice to abort my life, tried 3 times to abort my life, and it failed. And after the 3rd time of the failure of aborting my life, she settled down to accept the fact that she was pregnant. Then the next thing is to hope that my father, who is very light-skinned, a little darker than you, Rock, with curly hair, that the child would not look like the father, but looked more like my brother's father with dark complexion. Oh boy. So she fell into deep prayer, because sometimes when you are pregnant and you have unfortunate circumstances surrounding your birth, you feel very, very insecure. The best place to go when one is insecure is to get down on your knees and pray. And my mother became a very deep, prayerful woman. And the prayers and also her insecurities were part of forming my life. And when I came into the world, light-skinned with hair that was curly and auburn, brownish color, well, Mr. Walcott knew that I was not his. And so, to honor him, she named me after him, Louis Walcott. But he was no longer around. And so my mother raised my brother and me by herself. She moved away from New York, where my brother and I were born, and she went to Bermuda, where her mother had moved and her father, and we spent about a year in Bermuda, and then she moved to Boston, Massachusetts, where I grew up. Now, that part of my life is really the root of who Louis Farrakhan is. Her prayers and her deep insecurity brought me into the world with that same insecurity, but from almost the beginning of my life, my love for God. And in him, as she put her trust in him, that's what makes me so uncompromising, so fearless in telling the truth. And I'm 80 in a few weeks, and I have not bowed to the forces that have crushed our people, and I don't think that whatever time I have left, that I will bow. I want to go out of this world stronger than when I came in. Thanks to my mother, thanks to my father, thanks to the circumstances of my birth, and in my growth, searching for God and searching for somebody to lead black people out of our oppressed and wretched condition, I started my journey.
Started that journey, and that journey included music.
Oh, my mother, at 5 years old and 10 months, she put a violin in my hand, and she gave my older brother the piano. I didn't want to play no violin, but Mom was so strong. She was a real strong mother.
Did you get whippings?
Did I?
Mama used to tear that butt up.
What you say? My mother, bless her heart, she always said a hard head make a soft behind. So I had a soft behind. And she got to it as often as necessary. And on that subject, I want to say to all parents, you know, it's not wrong to discipline your child, but it is wrong to discipline them in anger and frustration over the circumstances of your life. My mother disciplined me, never out of circumstances of being alone in the world with no man by her side, but God always being present. she never whipped me angry. She was teaching as she was laying it down. And the last thing, you know, when I would mess up, and then I would lie to cover up, as many young people do. You don't have to teach children how to lie. No mother does. Circumstances teach us how to protect that butt. And so every time I did something that earned a whipping, she would give me licks for what I earned. And then she would say, but no, I'm going to beat you for the lie you told. And the lie was even worse because she would beat me more for the lie than for the thing that I did. And then she would say, a liar is a thief, and a thief will become a murderer. So I'm going to stop you at a lie. So she beat the literal lie and hell out of me. So I've become a man that loves truth. And that's why I will never, now I want you to hear me, never compromise truth for any advantage with any man, woman, or child. Because the heavens and the earth are created in truth and with truth. So truth is the essence of life. And if you live your life for the truth and die in the truth, you never, ever die, for truth is eternal life.
So hallelujah. Now, amen. The music.
Yes. Thank you for bringing me back to that. You know, I began to play the violin, and I did so well. She would put a clock on the table and set it for 15 minutes, and she would go and do her chores, but she was listening all the time. I hated that clock. And then as I progressed, she moved the clock to a half hour. And then as I progressed more, she moved the clock to an hour. And then I fell in love with the instrument, and I was driving her crazy because now I would go in the bathroom to practice because it had a sound like you're in a studio. And so people couldn't get in the bathroom because Louis was in the bathroom practicing. And so I'll close this section with this. My mother was a very hardworking, clean woman. Our little apartment was so clean you could eat off of the floor. In my dresser drawer, there were white shirts already washed and ironed. There were socks. There were underwear. There were my pajamas. I never slept in a dirty bed. I never dressed with dirty underwear, you know, with tobacco stains.
I understand. It's out in the country they call them skid marks. I mean, since we're there.
So my blessed mother was a seamstress. So she would work days as a domestic, and at night she would make garments for the members of our church. Our church was an Episcopalian church, and it was St. Cyprian's Episcopal Church in Boston, and I sang in the choir. I was an acolyte, and I loved church. So I found myself growing with this love of the violin. I got scholarships to study the violin, and after a while, I became so good at it that at 12 and 13, I was a part of the Civic Symphony of Boston, and when Boston College was all male. I was 13 years of age, and I went to Boston College, and I played with the Boston College Orchestra and toured with the Boston College Glee Club. I won the Ted Mack show. That was the first national show that I was on, and I've seen recently that many white and black stars. One of them is my beloved sister Gladys Knight.
Gladys Knight won it.
She was there, and oh God, so many whites won it, and they had me now on the Ted Mack show with all the other winners that have gone on to other things in life. And they say, Farrakhan, you know, he went on to be, you know, this
the boogeyman,
this terrible fellow. And so my music, I'm back at it now. I recorded the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto with the Symphony in Chicago. I recorded the Beethoven Violin Concerto with the Symphony in Los Angeles and the Cerritos Center. And sometime in my 80th year, I hope to record the very difficult Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto with orchestra. And I have an album that I just finished, and on that album, it's like you know, our brother from Georgia that sang Georgia, Ray Charles. When he made his last album, it was star-studded.
Yes.
Well, this album is absolutely star-studded. Some of the finest musicians in the world are on that album. And I have two magnificent Jewish musicians playing.
No!
Yeah.
Come on, man.
See, they think that Farrakhan is a hater. I really want you to know, from my heart to your heart, from my head to your head, I don't hate the Jewish people. I admire them. But I have a problem with the way some of them have related to us. That is not for right now. I'll get into it
I'd like to come
if
back.
Somebody asks me about it. But I had two magnificent Jewish musicians. One was the cellist of the Hollywood Bowl Symphony, and the other was a violist from the Berlin Philharmonic. And we played Bach together, Johann Sebastian Bach. That's on the album. Some of the greatest musicians. Nothing on this album is electronic. Everything is acoustic, all of the finest musicians and their instruments. Now, the last thing I would say, on that album, number one, Stevie Wonder. There's Shaka Khan, Denise Williams, Stephanie Mills. There's Snoop Lion. There is, oh God. Who? Jimmy Scott. You remember Jimmy?
Yes.
Well, Jimmy is featured on the album. And I tell you, Farrakhan plays the violin. Many of you don't know that I used to sing ballads. 50 years ago, I recorded. And some of those recordings, we'll intersperse them in a documentary that highlights this musical journey of Louis Farrakhan.
Did you happen to have a favorite ballad that we got about 20 seconds
Oh,
before
no.
we get to the 10:40?
No.
You can't hit one for us here?
I can't.
In live and living color?
No, I tell you why. I preach so much, I don't sing that well. So I have to go back 50 years ago and let you hear the brother when the brother could really chirp.
You can put it down. Folks, In studio, Minister Louis Farrakhan from the Nation of Islam. I am Rock Newman. This is We Act Radio at 1040 a.m. Tell your friends, if they're not already watching, they can see it around the world at www.rocknewmanshow.com. We're going to take a quick break and come back with the minister.
What do you care about? We'll find out when the discussion continues after this on The Rock Newman Show.
Good God, I got to ask you, what we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. What we need? Soul Food. Henry Soul Food.
Giving you the real on everything from politics, sports, and common everyday life issues. This is The Rock Newman Show.
I speak from Pennsylvania's death row.
A bright, shiny, highly mechanized hell.
Mumia Abu-Jamal is one of the lost souls of the revolution.
And they're trying to figure out how to shut him down entirely.
They have moved heaven and earth to stop his voice being heard in the United States.
When you talk about groups that are maligned and slurred as terrorists in the major media, they're really small fry. They're retail terrorists. Wholesale terrorists are the United States government.
The whole problem is really the blacks. The key is to devise a system that recognizes this while not appearing to.
On the move, this is Mumia Abu-Jamal.
Hi, I'm Tom Morello. Some call me the Night Watchman. And the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal is at a crucial stage. Please go to freemumia.com to find out more information about how you can help Mumia Abu-Jamal and other political prisoners. Night Watchman out.
This is Margaret Flowers.
And I'm Kevin Zeese. Join us every Monday morning, 11 a.m. for Clearing the Fog.
Speaking truth to expose the forces of greed.
Start the week with your eyes open.
The fog?
The forces of greed that spin news stories for the benefit of the 1%.
Each week, we feature guests who are working to expose these truths and offer real solutions to the current crises we face.
Knowledge is power, and with knowledge, you will be empowered to act to shift the power to the people.
Monday mornings at 11 a.m. on weactradio.com or 1480 a.m.
Hey, this is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've got, and based on the sale price of the car you choose, I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POHANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to timpohankaforthepeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people.
Real talk, real issues, real life.
I got a new sheriff in town.
We now return to The Rock Newman Show.
starting with the man in the mirror. Folks, the music that you hear when we do our outtake and when we come back in, this was arranged. This was specifically decided upon for this segment. And going out, you heard We Are One. Coming back in, you heard Man in the Mirror. We'll have treats, a musical treat going in and out of each break, and it was very intentional and hopeful that it is a message, even from you hear our voices and also the music, that you will get a message from that you can use in your life today and as you walk forward on your journey. I'm Rock Newman. In studio guest is Minister Louis Farrakhan from the Nation of Islam. This radio station is 1480 AM. I was told that I said it incorrectly before. Telephone number to call in the second hour. Let me give that out. 202-889-9797. Minister, we were talking about your music. You said you wanted to finish it up, but I just want to take the risk of coming back to it just for a second. I had a conversation with Quincy Jones, a lot of it that I didn't understand. But Quincy, on the beautiful island of Bermuda, tried to give me a bit of an education. I love music, but I am not musically inclined. I don't have much rhythm at all. And he talked about the seven scales, or he talked about a scale of music, and a scale of music being something that was godly. And obviously you hear me kind of stumbling through it, not fully understanding it, but might you elaborate on that a bit? And whether or not that had anything to do with your spiritual and religious godly inclinations?
That's a wonderful question, Brother Rock. Music is the universal language. It is that language that has the capacity to unite the hearts, the minds, and the spirits of those who hear it and are in accord with it. When we had the Million Man March, Rock, it was October 16th, 1995. You mentioned 2005, I think.
Yeah, okay. But I stand corrected again.
1995. The whole idea of that march were three principles: atonement, reconciliation, and responsibility. In the tradition of the Jewish people, the most holy of their holy days is Yom Kippur, which is the time of atonement. Atonement is a principle, and what I did on that day, I took the principle of atonement and matched it to the scale. Now, every scale has 7 notes that leads back to the dominant 8th note, which begins the scale going upward. If we take A as the tone that we tune up all instruments by in a symphonic or orchestral arrangement, every instrument tunes to a reed instrument that is called the oboe. It just happens to be a black instrument. And the tone that everyone tunes up by is the tone A, which is 440 vibrations. It just so happened that in ancient Egyptian history, Aton, it's really the god of the sun. aton. Amen Ra. Well, in atonement, you get aton, and ment means your desire to be at one. At one. So now I took those scales. If you say do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, you can't stop there. Do, you got to go back to where you started. Well, the first note in a scale is the first stage in the process of atonement. In the process of atonement, if you and your brother, you and your sister, you and your wife, you and I, and we even, in our disagreement with members of the white community or the Jewish community or any human being, the first thing you must do in a dialogue is, number one, point out the wrong that you feel has been done that has led to the injury and the separation. Now, once somebody points out wrong, that's do. Re is, now if you point out what I've done this wrong, it's my duty to listen to you, not try to make an excuse, but listen. And if there is truth in what you point out that I have done wrong, in my mind, I must accept that reality. And that leads to the third stage. You're acknowledging, wow, I did do that, and that was wrong. Now the third stage is I must openly confess it. You can't say, yeah, I was wrong, keep it to yourself, you know what I mean? Go in the corner and say, yeah, I was wrong, but I ain't saying nothing. Then the wrong continues. So you got to go back to the person that you wronged and say to them, I confess. And the scriptures come right back, you know, confession is good for what? The soul. So in the Muslim prayer, we say, I have been greatly unjust to myself and I confess my faults. Confession is part of the Catholic Church thing, and although I don't see anybody that I should confess to, except somebody that I've harmed or talked to God, because he's able to hear my confession and he is not imperfect. If I talk to the priest and tell him how I sinned, he might say back to me, me too.
Yeah. Yeah, little boy.
let me please go on. But listen, after I confess, then I must atone. And in the process of atonement, there is the spirit of repentance. You feel sorry that you offended somebody that you love. So you genuinely have that feeling of remorse, which leads to atonement. What do I do now to make up for the injury that I caused? And you know what? When you are quick to want to do something, say something that makes up for the evil that you sent forth into somebody's life, then the next thing is forgiveness. Then the person can say, wow, I forgive you. Now you're reaching the next stage, which is harmony and acceptance of your wrong. I accept it. I forgive you. Now we're back in harmony again. And you're back to the beginning. It's peace. You're at one.
Now I know.
See, now we are one.
That's right. We are one.
See?
That's right. We all are one. Folks.
But that process. See, I'm saying this now to white America. Please, this is non-racial. This is just factual.
How about when you talked about that black oboe? Were you being a racist then?
Oh, I was just being a realist. There is a difference. Now, this is such a great show to be on in the morning, you know, but let me say this to white America. Look, the native people have been done wrong. The Indians. The horror of the transatlantic slave trade that brought millions of black people out of Africa into the Western Hemisphere. Was it right or was it wrong? Then to make us slaves by taking away from us our names, our language, our history, our religion, our God, and then depriving us of the human right to know. This is a wrong. Now we're up 150 years from chattel slavery, and injustice still exists. So what is Farrakhan's role? I want to enter a dialogue, but I don't come to you like you're the master and I'm the slave. You're the man and I'm the beggar. No, I come to you as the star of God. And when you see a sheriff or the police, they have a star. And when the star shows up, it is to correct something that has gone wrong. So when a prophet or a messenger of God comes into the world, he doesn't come into the world because everything is right. He comes into the world because things have gone wrong and they're about to go south to a degree that somebody is going to get wiped from the face of the earth by God himself. So the sheriff is now in town. And some of you want to shoot the sheriff. But this sheriff is not going to be shot because God is my protector. Now I'm saying to white America, you have not done justice by us by giving us a black president. That is not justice for what we have suffered. Giving us your daughter in marriage is not justice for what we have suffered. That does not repair the gross injustice. See, so when I point out the wrong, now you call me a hate teacher. Now you call me anti-Semitic. It's not about hate. It's not about anti-Semitism. It's a cry for justice. And if you cannot respond to justice, if you respond to justice, then at the end, we become one. And that's why the song, We Are One, I would say it different, because we are not one. Let's be clear. We can't lie and delude ourselves. We're not one in our families. We're not one in our communities. We're not one in our churches. We are not one in our sororities and fraternities. We can become one. Yes. Yes. But there's an effort that has to be made in a righteous direction that will make us all one. And that's why Jesus said, boy, I got to preach this morning. This is why Jesus said, or Paul said, in Jesus, see, there's no Jew, no Greek, no bond, no free, no male, no female, all become one, but in Christ. See, that human being that comes into the world comes with the music that will compose all human beings on the staff of life, and all our different ethnicities, all our colors, all our tribes, all our different languages. Once we accept the principle of righteousness and justice and live up to what we preach, then we can absolutely become one. I am hoping that we are one. We will be able to say when we finally make the supreme effort in our lives to become one.
And we will strive to be one here
That's it.
at We Act Radio 1480. This voice you hear will promote that theme, and that is our challenge, to become one and to all of us to reach our higher selves. We'll be back in a moment.
Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
What do you care about? We'll find out when the discussion continues after this on The Rock Newman Show. You're listening to We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM. Visit us online at weactradio.com.
Good God, I got to ask you, what we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. What we need? Soul Food. Henry Soul Food.
Giving you the real on everything from politics, sports, and common everyday life issues. This is The Rock Newman Show.
My baby drives a bull handcuff.
The weekend is here, and no matter what the weather's like outside, you'll find the deals inside here in the beautiful showroom of the all-new Pohanka Hyundai in Capitol Heights during their giant Markdown Madness sale.
Smart shoppers know that every new Hyundai in Pohanka comes with Hyundai Assurance and America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. But why don't you tell them about the Markdown sale, Joe?
I'll be happy to, Kim. Folks, shop around on the web, and you'll see lease payments on a new 2013 Elantra GLS at $179 a month. Today at Pohanka Hyundai, $99 a month. That's right, a $99 payment on a brand new Elantra.
And $89 a month on a new 2013 Accent GLS Automatic. How do they do it, Joe?
It must be the volume, Kim. A brand new building, hundreds of new Hyundais, and Pohanka's low payment and easy credit programs are designed to get everybody driving. But you have to get here today. Rush to the giant Markdown Madness sale at exit 13 off the Capitol Beltway.
Pohanka Hyundai, king of the Beltway. All financing for a limited term on approved HMF credit.
My baby drives a bull handcuff.
I'm Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico. Last year, my state became the 12th state to allow medical use of marijuana by patients who are seriously ill. Some people were surprised that a Republican governor supports medical marijuana, but I'm hardly alone. Groups like the American College of Physicians, American Nurses Association, and American Public Health Association have all acknowledged the medical value of marijuana. New research about medical marijuana is coming out almost every day, showing remarkable potential in all sorts of serious conditions, including cancer, AIDS, and chronic pain. But some in government still want to put politics and ideology ahead of public health. To learn more about medical marijuana and what you can do to help, contact the Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or visit them on the web at mpp.org. Thanks.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at We Act Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, the Ark. The Ark is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The Ark is also home to the Ark Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you could want is at the Ark, so stop by and see them. The Ark, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast. For more information, visit the Ark's website, www.thearkdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The Ark, part of Southeast D.C.
Open Studio Tour is a premier arts event in the Gateway Arts District, showcasing more than 140 artists. Open Studio Tour occurs Saturday, May 11th from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the Prince George's County Gateway Arts District. Attendees are able to enjoy more than 17 venues, 70 studios, and over 140 artists will be opening their studio doors. This is home to the most innovative and exciting art scenes in the D.C. metro area. The Gateway Arts District brings together professional artists representing almost every visual arts medium. This year's tour features music and live performances and an opening exhibition at the 39th Street Gallery. This event is free and open to the public. For more information, please visit gatewayopenstudios.org. That's gatewayopenstudios.org. This event is funded in part by Maryland Park and Planning and sponsored by Gateway CDC, LandX Companies, and Anacostia Trails. We hope to see you there.
Real talk, real issues, real life.
I got a new sheriff in town.
We now return to the Rock Newman Show.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now, just you and me.
That's Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes and that famous voice, Teddy Pendergrass. We got to change it, yeah, just you and me. We got to change it, just you and me and us and all of us. In our strive to become one. This is the Rock Newman Show, 1480 AM on your radio dial. Telephone number 202-889-9797. Tell your friends to tune us in around the world at www.rocknewmanshow.com. Minister Farrakhan, in our first segment, in the first hour today, I had a gentleman on who, for years, I've watched on various news shows and have applauded what I've heard him talk about. And I certainly shared that with him today. His name was Mark Potok, and he's with the Southern Poverty Law Center. And when I've seen him on CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, whatever it might be, he typically has been has talked about extremism. He's talked about racial hatred. He's talked about groups that are violent. I did a little study to see how their work has crushed groups like the White Citizens Council, the Ku Klux Klan. And as I did my research, it was an absolute shock to me. I frankly, being somewhat familiar with you and the Nation of Islam, and basically just seeing your work and the nation's work since my days at Howard University in the 1970s, I was absolutely shocked to find out that the Southern Poverty Law Center had listed the Nation of Islam as a hate group. So I had a discussion with Mark Potok, and he agreed to come on this morning. I invited Mark to come on while you were on. And his timing, whatever it was, he could only join us in the 9 o'clock hour. And so I talked to him about some of the work that they've done, the threats that they live under. We were made aware of people trying to bomb their buildings. They say they spend over $1 million a year in security for people that constantly live under constant threat. And I asked him whether or not, I talked to him and asked him whether or not he was aware of the work that the nation does and sort of the deeds that I think are universally acknowledged that are good deeds by the nation. And he said, yes, indeed, he was aware of that. But yes, that the Southern Poverty Law Center lists the Nation of Islam as a hate group because of what he characterized as the doctrine, and that the doctrine is one that speaks that the white race is an inferior race, and that those teachings continue today. Because I asked him, I said, I haven't been in a church or a synagogue or a mosque in quite some time, so I can't tell you what the teachings of any of the three are for the most part. But are you aware? So he said, yeah, and I've talked to several of their followers, and they don't know the teachings. They don't know those racist teachings exist. I challenged that a bit to say that sounded a little paternalistic, that the Nation of Islam followers wouldn't understand the teachings of the Nation of Islam. My question to you, and I guess what I'd like for you to do, is being on a hate list of a group like this. That's a fairly damning label. And the support and voice that he gave to why, because the nation in the past and still teaches that the white race is an inferior race and the black race is a superior race. I'd like for you to respond to those claims.
Thank you, Rock. To Mr. Potok and to the Poverty Law Center and to white and black people alike. First, hate is always manifested not just with words, but with deeds. And if he and they, out of their hatred for us, have made books that they put in schools saying that the Nation of Islam is a hate group, they have made films and they put it before police departments that we are a hate group. They are the purveyors of hate against the Nation of Islam. Now, if they've spent $1 million a year on security, and yet all of this that they've done to us, yet they can't find one hateful act that any one of us has done to any one of them. So what is it about our doctrine that causes them to classify us as a hate group? Let me tell you simply what it is. Now, they say that we teach that white is inferior and black is superior. I don't know in what context you are speaking, because we as black people are in a very inferior position, not only in America, but in the Caribbean, in Central and South America, and in Africa. We once were in a superior position. But since two things can't occupy the same space at the same time, they are the ruling people of this time. So that's a lie or a misstatement of fact. But here's what we teach. And white folk teach it too. Let's see. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, two white people cannot produce yellow, much less brown or black. But the black man in us and from us came every species of human being that is on our planet. That is not hate or racism. That is an absolute fact. Now, some white anthropologists, one of the main ones was Dr. Leakey. He was looking for the origin of man. And he didn't. He may have passed through Europe, but he didn't stay there. He went to Africa, and he found the bones of a man 750,000 years of age, and they called him Zinjanthropus. Zinj meaning black, anthropus meaning man, and Zinjanthropus had a father. So they kept on searching, and they found bones of black people 1.5 million, 2 million, 3 million years. We are considered in the Bible the Ancient of Days. You cannot find our origin in the earth or in the sun. You find it with God. Now, having said that, does that mean we are superior? In the genetic sense, absolutely. If you keep bothering us, black folk shoot not AK-47s, they shoot something that if we mix with you, you are gone, we stay. So genetically, you are inferior. That's not your mentality. That's not your creativity. That's your genetic makeup. We can wipe you off the earth just cohabiting with you. And that's why your population is going down. Now, we didn't do that. You're the one that's promoting intermarriage now. Yes, there was a time when you would kill a black man for looking under a white woman's dress that was hanging on a clothesline. Now that's hate. We don't do that. We are telling the truth. You came from us. You are the Adam of the Bible, and we are the us that made man in our image and after our likeness. And we are the us that gave you time on our planet for you to live your life for 6,000 years, and we would not interfere with your rule until the coming of God. God is present now, and the truth is present now. So we are your Alpha, and we are your Omega. You began from us, and you will end with us. That's real. That's not hate. That's your scripture. Now let's go to real. No, I got to finish this, Rock. I'm just getting warmed up here. Now, here's hate. I'm hearing myself coming back.
So am I. So whatever is going on in the engineering, I'm hearing a reverb.
Yeah, don't get excited and try to mess it up.
Yeah, there is a repeat. We're having a technical issue.
No, it's not technical. It's spiritual. You know.
And now we don't. Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
I understand. Believe me, see, Once you open Pandora's box, you can't take what's coming out of it. See? But you opened it. Now, isn't it true that in the Talmudic, the Babylonian Talmud, this is Jewish literature, that it was a Jewish rabbi that introduced the thought that black people are the children of Ham and are doomed, as scriptures say, to be hewers of wood and drawers of water, that we are not black out of this creation of God. We are cursed black. Wrong. But you put that out. Is that love or is that hate? How many Muslims have segregated you? You down in Alabama, Mr. Potok. And in Alabama, who was it that put up white and black drinking fountains? Who put up white and black hotel, motel? See, you are the author of that, and that speaks to your hatred of us. We didn't do that to you. You all did that to us. Right now, in the movie, there's a history of the great ball player, Jackie Robinson. Look at what that man had to suffer to bring and open the door to black and brown and yellow to become a part of baseball. There was no black, there was no brown, there was no Japanese in baseball. So Jackie Robinson and black people opened the door for the rest of those who now are in baseball. Look, man, this is not our doing on your people. This is your doings on our people. So will the real hater stand up? And by the way, I want to say this. Since you charged us with being a hate group, I think we ought to bring you into your courts and make you prove what you assert about us with fact, not with innuendo, not with the wicked way you have been spreading your vile talk about us. We can prove what we say about you, but you cannot prove what you're saying about us. Maybe we'll iron this out before your courts. We don't get justice, but the truth will come out.
Let me ask on that point. On that particular man, there's so much to ask.
Yeah, well, ask it all.
Yeah, let me ask this.
Don't hold nothing back.
So the Southern Poverty Law Center, I repeat, has the Nation of Islam listed as a hate group. Now, it would seem to me, here's what I'd like to do. As someone who arranged boxing matches, someone who arranged fights, and someone who is making an earnest effort to try to heal the wounds of all. If Mr. Potok is still watching, I hope you are, and if not, we'll certainly, reach out. I would ask Mr. Potok and maybe his people, I would ask him if he would be interested in having an open dialogue to either agree or to or vehemently disagree. Is that something that you would be interested in?
Yeah, of course. Let me help you with that. See, look, don't bring Potok alone. Bring the ADL, Mr. Foxman. Bring the presidents of the 12 Jewish organizations. Sit down in front of the world with us and our scholars, and we'll debate you, and I know you won't win. That's why you don't want to come on no show with me. Let me say this. I don't argue. I make a statement of fact. You can deal with it or leave it alone. But if you want a showdown, I'll call for it. You respond. Bring Mr. Foxman. Bring the 12 scholars of the Jewish presidents. Bring those who say we are anti-Semitic and arrange a national and international showdown. And let's see where the truth is. Yeah, we can be one, but all liars and deceivers got to be shown up and put down. And he's one of them.
And when you say he's one of them, you're speaking of?
He, Potok. He, Abraham Foxman. He, the ADL. All of those that are condemning the nation. Come on out and let's have a showdown.
You know, I want to say this, that when people have a difference of opinion, whether it is a presidential election, whether it is election for mayor or for dog catcher, we live in supposedly a democratic society. And there are debates to be had to determine and let people decide for themselves. Now, I know that there is a body of thought that says that you don't talk with an extremist, you don't talk with a terrorist. But if any example in our government is to be taken, we talk to China. We talk to North Korea. You know, converging sides with very different and hostile sentiments try to talk. Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat, each side calling the other a terrorist. At least they try to talk. And for me, and I don't want to sound Pollyannish or naive, I would ask the simple question. Let's have a coming together to deal with the questions that have been posed. Not the questions, I'm sorry, the accusations. The accusation, Mark, that you make, that you feel rooted and comfortable in your belief, Mark, that the Nation of Islam should continue to be listed as a hate group. And the minister is obviously vehemently disagrees. Now, you have your reasons, Mark, and obviously the minister has his. And what I would like to invite both of you to do at some point, and as you say, if Mr. Foxman from the ADL and the other people that you talked about, why wouldn't we have that kind of open, transparent dialogue to try at the end of the day to reason with each other? That is something certainly that I will attempt to advocate from this little desk where I sit, and we'll see what happens.
Now let me just say this, brother. You can't find one act that the Nation of Islam and Louis Farrakhan has done against Jews or whites. There are hate crimes in America, and they're all cataloged. Not one has been named on the Nation of Islam and followers of Louis Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If we are haters, why can't you show me some hateful act that we have done other than our telling the truth that exposes your lies and your deceit? So let's have the showdown. I love the term showdown. And since you are a promoter of a fight, this is a fight that needs to be had. Make the fight happen. Otherwise, you'll always follow me up. If I come on the show, you'll come behind me. Oh, he's a hater. He's this. No, let's come out in the light. You know how cockroaches are when the light comes on. You know how rats are when the light comes on. They run for cover. Well, we're not running nowhere. We look for this kind of dialogue. We've tried for almost 30 years to have a dialogue, a meaningful dialogue. We've had dialogues, all right, but it ends up with them telling me I got to apologize for telling the truth. You can't get no apology from me for telling truth. Now, I will prove my truth. Let them come.
And let us go to the phones. We have callers lined up. Caller, you're on the line. You're on the Rock Newman Show. Our guest is in studio is Minister Louis Farrakhan.
A hot time in the old town tonight.
Caller, are you on the line? Turn your radio down and speak clearly, please.
Hey, this is Brother Hakeem from the city of Detroit, out of Mosque Muhammad #1.
Hi, Hakeem.
Young fruiter, member of the Nation of Islam. I just presently got my ex. I personally like to thank the brother ministers for standing up to the racism in the wilderness of North America and speaking for the indigenous people in the wilderness of North America. Now, I personally want to ask the brother a question, but since I don't feel like I'm worthy to ask the brother a question.
Of course you are. Every human being is worthy to ask a question of another human being. So if you have a question, dear brother, you ask that question. And no question is considered silly. Just ask what's on your heart.
Except the question that's not asked. Speak, Hakeem.
I'd like to know, dear brother, on your coming to Detroit on May 17th, what will be the agenda and the main, what will be your address being made to us as being members of the nation, as being Mosque #1, the city that Master Farad Muhammad decided to visit to raise up from among us the messenger and apostle and the servant, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes. I have your question.
Hakeem, we're gonna let the minister answer. We're gonna go to another call after he answers this one. But thank you so much for calling.
God willing, I will be in Detroit on the 16th and 17th of May. I've been asked to speak to the city council. I've been asked to speak to reverends, and I will be at Reverend Wendell Anthony's church to speak to the residents of the city. Detroit is where the Nation of Islam started. Detroit is almost considered now a dead city, and therefore Islam comes after everything else fails. So we'll come back to Detroit where we began and look at the condition of Detroit, pool our resources and try to buy properties in Detroit and start rebuilding one of the greatest cities in America where we are concerned. That's where the Nation of Islam was founded. And so we have a duty to that city, and we're going to come and see what we can do to help the school system, to help the government, to help the people, and then let's try to own the city. Since the property is cheap and falling down, why don't we pool what resources we have and start buying up buildings and making them worthy and creating opportunities? That is what we need to do when we come to Detroit. Look forward to seeing you, Brother Hakeem, and meeting you personally.
You know, you're talking about Detroit. In my research and reading, I saw former White House Chief of Staff, now Mayor of Chicago, seriously taken to task. They said Rahm Emanuel, he's a Jewish leader of big Chicago city, and he sought out the assistance, support, and help of Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam in trying to help stop the murders in Chicago, which is obviously Obama's hometown also. Can you tell us about that exchange? What went on there?
No, he never sought my help.
Okay.
And the papers that printed that you have printed a falsehood. We decided, because of the high murder rate in the city of Chicago, the fratricidal conflict that is leaving so many young black men and women dead, that we would take the FOI, the Fruit of Islam, into the streets of Chicago to try to stem that rising tide of violence. So we went out in the city, not looking for accolades or anything from city government. This is our duty, and it would be a shame that we would have to be called by the mayor to do something that is our duty and our responsibility. The mayor recognized it after we had tried to do this and were doing it. He thanked us through the media for trying to do what we could to help. And we're back in the streets. We're in every city, major city, about 160 of them in America, in the streets, trying to stem the tide of violence. This year, God willing, we're going out, and the sisters are coming with us, and the brothers, and believe me, we hope to bring Jim Brown and Ameri Khan and all of that to offer to our young men. There is a way out for us, but that way out is not depending on others. The way out is to depend on God, ourselves, and the unity of us. And boy, if we can become one in our struggle, we'll almost be free overnight.
Caller, you're on the line. Please turn your phone down and speak clearly.
Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I had a question. As you and have taught, and as we have learned, that everything happens by Allah's permission, whether active or permissive, how do we know when we see things that may be going wrong in our school or our house of worship or our city or whatever the case is, when to put our hand against it and when to allow it to run its course and to see whether or not Allah handles it, or does he want us to be an active part of what it is that needs to be handled?
Thank you for your question. You know, both the Bible and Quran give instructions like this. You know, in the Quran, if you're talking about your mosque or your organization, there are always going to be differences. In every organization that we have, there are differences. We don't break up into violence in our churches, our mosques, or our organizations when we disagree with one another. We should always have a group that resolves conflict, and resolving conflicts mean there has to be a standard that we accept of judgment to monitor and to correct our behavior when our behavior runs counter to the standard. So, yes, brother, you always have a right to speak against what you think is incorrect or wrong. But how you do it is critical, because in organizations, especially black organizations, we end up with so much infighting because of enmity and jealousy and the misuse and abuse of power and authority. So we end up destroying our organizations and destroying the progress that we could make if we had a better way of resolving conflict. Now, when you say nothing happens except by Allah's permission or his active will, well, if something is going wrong in your marriage, it's not God that did that. It's not his active will that's putting you at odds with your wife. But if you use your godly spirit, one of the things that Brother Rock have been calling on us, we are one, he said, but you must address your higher self. And your higher self is a rational self. Your higher self is a godly self. And when you bring the higher self to your disputes or arguments, then you will search for the truth. Then acting on the truth, you'll resolve conflict.
And the truth is, we've got a commercial break we're going through right now. We'll be back in a few moments after these messages.
Please be patient with me. God is not through with me yet. Oh, please be patient with me. God is not through with me yet. Oh, when God get through with me, when God get through with me, I shall come forth. I shall come forth as pure gold. Lord, 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 Lord.
The Rock Newman Show will be back after this.
Let me tell you who to blame. Blame the boy lying at your feet, his body oozing life through the hole in his stomach where the bullet tore him apart. Blame him for challenging you, for not looking away and for not backing down when you pulled out the gun. Blame your mother for bringing you into this world when she was but a kid herself and for dragging you up, not bringing you up. Blame society for not giving you hope. Blame your father for not being there, the man who looked after himself instead of looking after you. Blame the gun in your hand for making you a target, for making you more likely to be picked on. Blame the dead boy, blame your mother, blame society, blame your father, blame the gun, blame anyone but yourself for not being strong enough to put down the gun, to break the cycle.
The prodigal son of the DMV is back. Ladies and gentlemen, show your love for Rock Newman on The Rock Newman Show.
Pohanka Acura's huge March sales event is going on now. Get one of the new 2013 TLs for as low as $199 per month, or get the brand new 2013 MDX for only $254 a month. Come find out why price and selection have made Pohanka the world's largest.
I speak from Pennsylvania's death row.
A bright, shiny, highly mechanized hell.
Mumia Abu-Jamal is one of the lost souls of the revolution.
And they're trying to figure out how to shut him down entirely.
They have moved heaven and earth to stop his voice being heard in the United States.
When you talk about groups that are maligned and slurred as terrorists in the major media, they're really small fry. They're retail terrorists. Wholesale terrorists are the United States government.
The whole problem is really the blacks. The key is to devise a system that recognizes this while not appearing to.
On the move, this is Mumia Abu-Jamal.
Hi, I'm Tom Morello. Some call me the Night Watchman. In the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal is at a crucial stage. Please go to freemumia.com to find out more information about how you can help Mumia Abu-Jamal and other political prisoners. Night Watchman out.
The conversation that some people just don't care to have. We now rejoin the discussion on The Rock Newman Show.
What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, do you know I got it? All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Hey, baby, when you get home, mister, I ain't gonna do you wrong while you're gone. I ain't gonna do you wrong, 'cause I don't wanna. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Baby,
That's the Queen, Aretha Franklin, on the Rock Newman Show at WEAC Radio, 1480 AM. I'm going to give this number out one last time. We've got some callers on hold, 202-889-9797. We've got a lot of stuff going on here. You can tweet us at #RockNewman, or you can go to the Rock Newman fan page, or you can go to Rock Newman on Facebook. Let me say, I would be remiss if I didn't announce this, that Minister Farrakhan will be speaking tomorrow, April the 28th, just up the street at Union Temple Baptist Church, located at 1225 W Street, Southeast Washington. And that will be the 40th anniversary, I think, of Union Temple Baptist Church.
11 a.m.
At 11 a.m. Reverend Wilson was on with us a few weeks back, and that church has certainly been an institution in Washington, D.C. So you are invited to come see him, Minister Farrakhan, tomorrow, speak at Union Temple Baptist Church. Minister, this is something that you probably have answered ad nauseum. It is something, I'm going to go back to Mark Potok one more time, in terms of the criticism of the language, of your language, and one of the justifications for the nation being on the hate list. And that is that supposedly you called Judaism a gutter religion, and that you said that Hitler was a great man.
You're right, ad nauseum. I'm sick of it, and sick of having to address something I've addressed over the years. This is not even worthy of my time, to be very honest. Let me just say very quickly, I never referred to Judaism as a gutter or dirty religion. I referred to the practice of some of those who claim to be Jews, and their practice is dirty, using God and the prophets as a shield for unclean, unsavory, illegal, and wicked actions. Christians do that. They use Jesus as a shield. Muslims do that. They use Muhammad and the Quran as a shield to carry on illegal, wicked things in the name of God and their prophets. That's the way I approached it. I did say Hitler was a great man. I did, but wickedly great. See, when they say what I say, always notice how they position my words. Wickedly, this is not my language, by the way, but I did study it. Wickedly is an adverb, and great is an adjective. And you can use an adverb to modify an adjective. Now, I didn't make Hitler. You all made him. There's no time in the 40 years since Hitler has been dead that we made a movie on Hitler, that we talked about Hitler. Y'all talk about him. And you all make him come through time with what the Nazis did. And you bring him to us to teach us of the Holocaust that you all suffered at the hands of Adolf Hitler. Well, let me ask you, we have just put out a book called The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Book 1 and Book 2, with over 2,000 footnotes from Jewish rabbis, scholars, and historians. Now, come on and get the book and tell us if anything we said in the book is false.
We need to have the debate that I was referring to earlier, because this book was referred to by Mr. Potok as filled with inaccuracies, filled with untruths.
See, that's a liar. I'm calling you that, Potok. You are of your father. He was a liar from the beginning. We want to sit down, see, and expose you for the liar that you are, or the demon. Let's come on out and let's have the showdown, because it's time now that black people should go free from your control. You want them to you want to use me as a litmus test before any black man can rise. Let me tell you, there was a young violinist, a great young girl. She's 16 years of age. She was everything that I ever hoped to be. She was studying at the University of Indiana. And she had a tremendous Jewish teacher as her teacher. She and her mother knew nothing about me. But that man, according to the mother, told her, the mother, that if this child ever has anything to do with Louis Farrakhan, she will never get another lesson. Now that's hate. I have never done any act of hatred towards you all.
How did that even come up?
How do you mean?
I mean, you said it was a black girl?
Yes.
And her mother, and they were being taught by...
Well, they came to me, and she played for me.
Oh, I see.
And I gave her a $5,000 scholarship. And I didn't ask for it, but the mother told me that the teacher told them. She didn't even know who I was, but the teacher made me known. Let me tell you something. You're all so frightened of Farrakhan, not because I'm a murderer, but see, this thing, this truth that's in my mouth is what scares the hell out of you. But it's not my fault. If you were not doing wickedness, the truth couldn't find you. So let's have this thing, man. Let's stop talking about it. And I bet you, if you can arrange it, we'll throw down. But I'll tell you, they ain't going to show up because darkness can't show up with light. It's the end of the argument.
I think that I would respond to that by saying that my mother was 46 years old when I was born. And the doctor told her, no way you could be pregnant. And she said, yes, I am. So I know you talked about your circumstances of birth. I have circumstances of birth of my own that I wasn't supposed to happen. I was a very big mistake. And since the time that I can remember, I've been told by one and all, well, you can't really do that. Whatever the journey might have been, whatever my aspirations and dreams may have been, that is just not going to happen. And you know what? It didn't stop me from trying, and not everything did happen. But in terms of trying to use what resources I have, I certainly will make a very honest and earnest attempt to arrange the dialogue that you're talking about. If I'm a betting man from Las Vegas, do I put high odds on it? No, but my life has been sort of lived against the odds, and I certainly will make that effort. I fervently believe that it could be something that would be valuable for our country and valuable for the world.
My dear brother, it will be a great learning experience for you in your effort to do this. No, I'm serious. I don't play with this. I tried this dialogue 30 years ago. And I was invited, listen to this, on the Ted Koppel show to have a showdown with the man for the ADL.
Foxman?
No, it wasn't Foxman. It was his predecessor. But anyway, Nathan Perlmutter, thank you. And I said to them, I said, no, I would not want us to come on television to have a dialogue. I would rather us have the dialogue, and if the dialogue is successful, then we go before the television and say we resolved the problem. Mm-hmm. Now, that's an intelligent approach, but 30 years have gone on now. So it can't be done in no back room. It's got to be done in the public where all the damage has been done to me and the Nation of Islam and what we represent. There will not be any back room dialogue. It will be either in the public for the whole world to see. Otherwise, it was not going to be fruitful for us. We got to end this once and for all. And I'm willing to pay with my life if you can find me lying.
Minister Farrakhan, we have approximately 4 minutes left in this show. We could go on and on. What I'd like to ask you is two things to wrap up here. I'd like to know that when that time comes, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, we love you, but we all must depart this earthly sphere. I want to know what you would want written or said about you. That's one thing. And the other thing is, if you could give us your dream or your vision in 2013, what you'd like to offer, what you'd like to suggest for this terribly fractured society we live in.
Thank you. We all have that rendezvous with destiny, but there's no such thing as death. For those who live their lives for truth and live their lives for God and live their lives in service of humanity. Physical death, yes, but spiritually, no, you'll always be in the pantheon of remembrance because of your service. Martin is gone, Malcolm is gone, Du Bois is gone, Garvey is gone, but they're remembered because of the great service that they gave to us. My hope, and I don't think about legacy, I leave that for historians to write. As the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in my closing words on this broadcast, I was weeping when Martin Luther King was assassinated. And I went to him because we disagreed with Dr. King's approach. And I said, why is it that we can disagree, but when death comes to my brother, I'm weeping because I hate to see that he's gone. And here's what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to me. He said, brother, as long as the testator lives, he is writing his testament. But when death comes, it puts a period to his testament. Then the historians come and gather up the bits and pieces of his or her life and assigns them their place in history. When I had a dialogue with a Jewish rabbi, he said, brother, anybody that disagrees with the Jewish people are never written of well in history. And I said, that's because you write the history. And I'm saying this to us. If we let our enemies write our history, then we will always be evil spoken of in history. We have to document the history of our own great ones and not wait until 50 years after they're dead when their ideas that gave life to movement have been destroyed. May God bless you, Rock Newman. May God bless this radio station. May God bless those of you who listen today. And if Rock Newman can get this kind of, I wouldn't even call it a dialogue, because dialogues now, are peaceful things. See, but this is showdown at the OK Corral. This is high noon. This ain't about dialogue. It's about who's right, who's wrong, and what are the consequences when you come out wrong. Assalamu alaikum.
I asked my listening audience today, in studio, on radio, and at rocknewmanshow.com around the world, to listen with an open ear, an open mind, and an open heart. I certainly hope that you did that. I'll close with saying that part of the reason that I read the eulogy of Malcolm X is because so many of us, long after Malcolm was gone, paid tribute to the positive impact that he had on the world in which he existed. And I think that is something that it's called smelling the roses. Okay, so I think it wrapped and I got bleeped, but that's okay. Thank you for watching, Minister Farrakhan. Thank you for appearing on the Rock Newman Show.
Thank you.
her car. That's freaky. C-section all the way. We're taking action, Daniel Marans. That's what we're going to do.
That is just problem solved, David. Completely. Yeah. There you go.
We have a great show lined up for everybody today. We're going to be talking about some of the overlooked stories, particularly what's been going on in the town of West Texas. It turns out that plant did not notify the Environmental Protection Agency of the things that they were supposed to, possible violations of law there. Daniel Marans is going to look at the Bush Presidential Library, all the presidents of that club. They got together this past week. Daniel will have some of that. Charlie Mitchell will join us in a very special discussion about Canadian politics with somebody near and dear to my heart. So stay with us. 10 seconds. We take a pause for our syndicated stations. You are listening and you're watching to David Schuster and Daniel Marans on We Act Radio's Take Action News.
American citizens everywhere are demanding and supporting speedy and complete action.
Broadcasting from the We Act Radio studios in Washington, D.C., heard live across the nation, this is Take Action News with David Schuster.
Many of the world's great movements of thought and action have flowed from the work of a single man.
There is work to be done. The state of our economy calls for action, bold and swift, and we will act.
We will take action when action is required.